there, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I know you're staring at the sweater, right? It's this beautiful rustic orange. I love it. Picked it up at Walmart. Just took the tag off of it, right? Yep, just took the tag. You're talking to your tags dangling over here. That'll be a professional video. Anyway, with that said, let's move on to some fun crafts I have for you today. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Today we'll be working on some Rustic Farmhouse fall home decor crafts, so let's get started with project number 1. Now for this project, I found these larger pumpkins at Dollar Tree. If you'll remember in one of my last videos, we used this smaller size pumpkin and made a candle out of. You could use that for this as well. We're going to do the same process as that candle. I'll link that video down below if you don't have it. So on the back of one of these, I'm just coming about an inch in and I'm redrawing that pattern perimeter, you know, the outside edge of the pumpkin all the way around, because I want to go ahead and come in and take my jigsaw and cut that center out. Before we do that, of course, I'm going to take these little, I think they were little like cardboard words, take the paper off the front, you know, take the stickers off the back, all that kind of thing. I'll actually sand some of the paper off of the front here in a little bit. I am going to use my drill with a large drill bit and just kind of drill 3 pilot holes here so I can cut that center out. Allows me to get my jigsaw blade in those holes to get to around that edge. And here I am just kind of, you know, sanding off the paper. I don't worry about the paint. I chose pumpkins that had a white because they have different color ones. I chose pumpkins that had a white outer perimeter painted along the sides and the back so that I can just easily paint over them in the color that I want. All right, go ahead and get this off. And then here I am with my jigsaw, and you can see I'm just coming in, going through those holes there, and just cutting out that inner pumpkin shape, again leaving about an inch perimeter all the way around. And we're only going to mess with this on this one. I know on that candle one we kind of did this, and in the bottom one we used like a burr and a Dremel tool and we kind of dished it out to make like a bowl. We're not doing anything on our bottom pumpkin, we're leaving it flat. Okay, but this one we're going ahead and cutting out. And if you didn't want to do this or don't have access to a jigsaw to do this project, you could do it on top of the wood pumpkin. It would still look cute. You could do it on top of the pumpkin versus taking, you know, and kind of doing it inside the cutout area like we're going to do. It would still be cute. Okay, now once this is all cut out, I'm just going to come in with some sandpaper and just kind of sand that inner area I cut out and just kind of round out the top area around where I cut out as well. You know, jigsaws kind of give you a nice rough cut, so I want to just smooth it all out, make it look nice. And then what end up doing is set the top pumpkin on the bottom pumpkin. It'll look just like this with that little area cut out. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is set the pumpkin that I cut out onto some thin cardboard here, and I'm going to trace that inner portion and cut that out. Those of you that want to do this but, you know, don't have access to the jigsaw, you could do the same thing. You'll have to trace the outer pumpkin, but then just come in about an inch or so and, you know, redraw your pattern there and cut that part out. Now, once I do cut this inner portion out, it's going to, you know, kind of perfectly fit that inner part of the pumpkin, but I want it to come in about 1/8 of an inch more in because I need room for my fabric and stuff to wrap around this cardboard. We're going to be using some fabric here, and you need room for that to wrap around and still fit inside the opening of your pumpkin. So I've cut that out, and you can see I'm coming in about 1/8 inch more all the way around and just cutting it down that much further. And now you can see here, see how I've got that little border all the way around there. That's perfect. That's what we need. Now, I'm going to take some Gorilla Glue here, some wood glue, and I'm just going to glue our top silhouette pumpkin onto the bottom pumpkin, of course. I'm just using a paintbrush here because it's such a thin area, and I hate cleaning glue off my fingers. I'll lay the silhouette on top of the bottom pumpkin, and I'm going to clamp it up really good all the way around, and I just let that set for, you know, a couple hours or so. I think really you only need to let it set for like a half hour, but I just let it set because I went on to something else. Now I'm using that same cardboard piece onto some sweater fabric here. I picked this up on Etsy. I'll have the link down below for you. You can see I'm coming about 1 inch out from that pattern and just redrawing a new pattern again. And I'm going to cut through 2 layers of fabric. And actually when I cut this out, as you can see, I actually come out even about another 1/4 inch from where I drew. I rather have too much than not enough, because essentially we want to wrap this around the cardboard. We're going to add some stuffing on top and wrap our fabric around it, so you want it to be a little bit bigger. And the one nice thing about sweater material is it's got a little stretch to it, so it'll be nice. I'm going to use Beacon Fabri-Tac glue here. You can use hot glue. Since I'm doing 2 layers of fabric, you could just do 1. It's my choice to do 2. I'm just kind of gluing the 2 pieces together. All right, and none of that pen stuff will be seen. All right, I'm going to add some glue onto our little cardboard template here and a nice little pile of stuffing here, little pillow stuffing. Right, and then I'm going to wrap my pumpkin around this, making sure my stuffing gets tucked real far in. And what we want to do when we wrap, make sure as you wrap that you're pulling it tight enough you keep that silhouette around your pumpkin shape. I'm going to actually use some hot glue here because it's going to be a lot quicker filming, right? And pull that sweater material up and over, all right? And then as you pull around, making sure that you're pulling tightly enough around those curves of that cardboard to keep that pumpkin shape. And it's going to, and you can see I'm doing it on this side as well. Obviously, I'm going to do that all around. It will, like your fabric's going to gather and stuff like that. That's okay. Now, as you're pulling the top, make sure you're not pulling so much that you don't have enough fabric at the bottom to pull up and over. So be conscious of that as well, okay? And I'm just going to continue on with this all the way around. And like I said, the material is going to kind of gather. It's going to pucker a little bit. All of that is okay because we have that whole inner area of our silhouette pumpkin to fill up with this. In fact, we're going to actually put a little more stuffing inside that pumpkin area as well underneath this. So it's okay if it puckers and gathers. You're just making sure you get it nice and tight in there and around, as I've said 3 times, to get your pumpkin shape. Right, we're almost done with this part. One more little corner to go here. Perfect. Now, look how, see, we pulled it nice and tight, so we have that nice pumpkin shape with all its curves. And setting that aside a minute, I'm going to use Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Terracotta here, and I'm going to go ahead and paint my pumpkin, you know, top, sides, around the bottom, and I'm going to actually paint it a little bit on that inner perimeter as well, at least up near the top, as you can see here, because a little bit, not too much, but a little bit will show there at the top a little bit. That sounded weird when I said it. Skip that part. You didn't hear it. A little bit's going to show. All right, and then I want to come in and sand it just a little bit, slightly. I just want to give it a little bit of a rustic edge, so I just kind of make sure I do around the edges on the top, the sides, and the bottom, however you want to. You don't have to sand it at all. But plus, when you sand this chalk paint, it gives it a nice kind of milky color, and this is what that looks like. And see, the white that was already on the pumpkin looks really cool coming out beyond that, right? So when you set this in the first time, there's some spacing here, so I wanted you to see that. You can see that there. You could leave it like that if you want, but I want it up a little bit closer to the top of our pumpkin. So I'm adding some glue and a little more stuffing in the bottom. And then I'll go ahead and, that way it'll raise this up. I'll go ahead and add glue to the bottom of our area here of our pumpkin. Again, you can use hot glue. As I put it in, I'm going to hold it down till it sets. And now you can see once it popped back up, it's a little bit closer to the edge, and that's how I want it. All right, I've got some fabric here I printed on. I sewed around the edges a little bit. If you didn't have that, you could use this from these Woodwards at Dollar Tree. I almost went with that. Kind of liked it, but in the end, I went with this little fabric patch here. I'll show you in the next project. You know, we'll go really quickly, but I'll show you how I printed onto fabric. I was getting ready to glue this down and realized the fabric looked a little too light, so I'm going to bring in some Distress Oxide ink and Vintage Photo. I've got about a minute before my ink set, so I'm just going to quickly ink around the edges here, and then I'll go ahead and get that glued down the lower right corner of the pumpkin. And I've got a couple of wood buttons here from my supply. I'm going to go ahead and ink those up as well. I like this Vintage Photo ink because it's kind of brown, but it can kind of have a little orange tone too if you put it up against some oranges. Now I've got some thin twine because I can't stand to leave empty buttonholes and buttons when I'm gluing them on here. I'm going to add just some twine through both of the buttons and knot it in the back, cut off the excess, and then I'll glue the buttons to either side of the little fabric tag, just to make it look like we sewed that on with some buttons. And then I'm going to glue on some pip berries here. Anything you want at the top at this point, I'm going to do some pip berries, some little parts of picks, stuff like that. And I've got a little orange plaid bow here this came from Joann's. little ribbon here I did into a bow, orange plaid bow ribbon. I don't know, that came out weird again. And these couple of things that came from some picks, some little pumpkins and these little spiky looking things. I think I got those at, I don't remember where I got those. I've seen them at Hobby Lobby though. And pumpkins that came off of a pick. So I'm just kind of gluing those to the side of my bow here. Wanted to add a little bit of white in the pumpkin, so it went with kind of the white of the ribbon. It's more of a cream color, and then kind of the cream color of that fabric patch too. And then I'm adding in a little Excelsior here as well. And then I've got a big, large twine I've tied into a bow. I'm going to glue that on. And then I've got this little putka pod. You can get these in the craft stores as well. I'm going to glue that in the center. And then last minute I decided I wanted to take some of that terracotta paint, kind of thin it down with some water. You can see I covered up the rest of my project. I do this sometimes, like last minute I want to add some. Cover it up with paper towel, take a fan brush into that paint mix, wipe off the extra, and just add a few little dots on the tag, and that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 2. For this project, I'm going to use this fabric. Now, this is just sample fabric because I thought it would be easier to show you with a light colored fabric. So partway through, I will switch to the main fabric I'm using. But you're going to need 2 colors, one for the main part, which is this pumpkin pattern here, and then one for the stem that we have here. And of course, it will look like this when you put it all together. I will have a free printable for you. It's quite a large size pumpkin here. Now, the free printable is going to come in 2 pieces, a part A and a part B. And what you'll do is where it says here, tape together, you're just going to tape it together on that line right there in the center, okay? Now, the actual size of the pumpkin is about 12 1/4 inches tall and 20 1/2 inches wide. So when you go to print this out, once you do print this out, down on the edge, it's going to say to place this on the fold, and that's how you're going to cut it out. Your fabric's going to be folded in half, and you're going to cut it out on the fold, and then you're going to cut 2 of the stem of your other fabric. When you unfold it, it should look like this big pattern here, okay? And then we're also going to make like some segments, either by gluing or sewing on either side. And I'll go ahead and kind of, put the dash lines in here on the pattern. And I will show you gluing and sewing what we're doing. And of course, on the other side, like this would be the right-hand side of the pumpkin. On the left-hand side of the pumpkin, it's going to be opposite. So you're going to want that as well, okay? So what I'm doing now, I'm just going ahead and cutting my fabric out 2 pieces. You're going to cut yours on the fold 2 pieces. So what you may want to do is lay 2 pieces of fabric together and then fold it in half and then lay your pattern on the fold and cut it out so you can cut out 2 pieces at one time. Here's my stem here. I've cut out 2 pieces. Now, if you want, I started out doing it this way, felt or fleece or a batting. You can use that stem to cut extra here. I even like doubled it. I cut like 2 pieces. And then when you cut that out, go ahead and cut it a little bit smaller than your actual stem and use your pattern stem for this. Or you can stuff it. So I started out with this and then later decided to stuff it. I'll show you how that looks in a minute. So if you're a gluer, go ahead and glue this together or glue your outer edges together and then you can stuff it. Also, if you're a gluer, you're going to open your 2 pieces of fabric and you're going to come along from the top to the bottom, right where the fabric comes in at points, right? And you're going to glue, like on the right side, you're going to glue like out in an arc, like half of an oval in each of those points from the top down to the bottom. On the left side, you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to do like a left-handed, like half of an oval from those inner points from the top to the bottom, and it might be easier to watch as I'm showing you than me telling you. So right to left, because you're making segments in your pumpkin. Once you have those glued, you're going to have individual little tubes here, so to speak, on your fabric, okay? Now you're going to place your stem at the top in that middle pumpkin segment, and you're going to have to glue in front and behind it, but you could start at the left-hand side near the bottom, and you're going to glue all the way around the edges of your pumpkin. Do not glue the bottom, okay? You want that bottom opening all the way across to stuff our little tubes, so to speak. So I'm going to start sewing this so you gluers can kind of see what it looks like with it sewn. So I'm going to do the same thing as I talked about in the gluing option. You're going to come down on the right-hand side from that top inner point and sew in like a right half oval arc down to that inner point in the bottom between your segments. And then you're going to skip over and do the next one. And then on the left-hand side, you're going to do a left arc. Okay, so here's what the right looks like, top to bottom sewn. All right, and then I will finish that off on camera, but I will show you what it looks like. So you're going to do right-sided arcs, left-sided arcs, okay? I'm going to go ahead now and sew the stem, and as you can see, I'm leaving all the edges out. I want this to look rustic. I don't want to have to worry about it. So I'm sewing this, and if you decided you didn't, I wanted a more poofier stem, so what you do is just sew your two pieces of fabric together. Don't put the felt or batting inside and then stuff it later. Here's what it looks like. As you can see, I got my right-sided arcs sewn, so gluers, this is what it would look like inside, and there's my left-handed arc. All right, just like that. Then I'm going to put my stem inside, and we're going to sew around that stem side to side, top down to the bottom, but we're going to leave that bottom opening. We're going to leave those individual tubes open so that we can stuff them. And again, it's probably easier to watch than listen to me trying to explain it, but hopefully between the two, I kind of got you covered here. All right, so I'm just going to show you this sewing process as I'm going around. And you can see I'm leaving probably about a 1/4 inch around each pumpkin segment at the end. And here I'm going to be coming over that stem area, whether you stuff or decide to use batting or not. I first started this because I show you kind of stuffing it at first, and as I'm stuffing this, I'm noticing that the flat stem doesn't look quite right. So I decided when I change over to my fabrics I'm actually going to use that it looked better with a stuffed stem. I decided, as I said earlier, to show you in this fabric because it is easier to see the sewing process, so I thought it would help you gluers and sewers visually to see what's going on, because once I switch over to the next scene and you see the fabric I did use, you're going to see how it looks stuffed. It looks really cool, but it would have been too hard for you to see the sewing lines to understand what I'm talking about. So almost done here. Just got to go little by little. It was very quickly, easily to sew, and here's what it looks like going all the way around. Got my stem in there, right? And here's my segments and my individual tubes, so to speak. All right, so then your next step is to start stuffing your tubes, and I stuffed mine pretty heavily. So this next scene coming up, you're going to see me switch to the next fabric with my tubes stuffed so you can see how tight I did it, and this is what it looks like. Doesn't those segments where we sew it look really cool? This is my stuffed stem. These fabrics I got, you can see here I stuffed it. The fabrics I got are from Etsy. I'll leave a link down below for you. But I love the really definitive segment look. So now once it's all stuffed, you're going to go across. If you're a gluer, you're going to glue that opening closed. And if you're a sewer, you're going to come in and sew that opening closed. It wasn't hard to sew, but it was a little bit cumbersome to sew the opening closed, especially with this fabric. I love it. It's furry, it's soft, but a little slippery because it's soft. So I kind of just had to go a little at a time, making sure my ends were together, and a piece of fabric didn't slip out or something like that, but it worked beautifully. Okay, once that's done, I want to put like a cute fabric tag on this. So I have printed onto some fabric. I will have a free printable for you. These were some phrases I put out last year, but they still work very wonderful. And this is easy to do. I just take a piece of copy paper and this multi-purpose adhesive, and I spray just a light layer across the top. And I like to take a muslin fabric or this is fabric from like a towel fabric, a linen fabric. You could use it like a duck cloth, and I just smooth it on really nicely onto that paper, and then you want to cut off any excess fabric that's hanging off the edge or any excess paper that's hanging off the edge that has sticky on it, because that's going to go through inkjet printer. I've not tried it in a laser, but as you run it through your inkjet printer, you don't want any of that sticky paper exposed, or laser printer where it can stick to your rollers. And then once you're done, it prints out like this. So I've cut one of those phrases out, and I'm just coming in here with my sewing machine and just adding some stitching around it with some thread here. I'll do like a double stitch around it just to kind of make it fun and cute here, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm not really decorating this a whole lot. It's very simple, believe it or not. So this is what that looks like twice around. I didn't try to make it neat, thought it was fun. You can see I've got threads hanging out around the edge. That's what I want. And then I took one of these leaves from Dollar Tree, actually two, and I just kind of cut off that top center portion. I keep these because I can use those. And I'm going to run this through my sewing machine and sew around it as well. And I do a couple of layers. I wanted a darker orange thread. I just kind of have a lighter orange, so you don't see it a whole lot. It's really subtle. Probably definitely would have looked better with a darker thread, but I still like the look. And as you're sewing, you know, it kind of distresses the edges because they're burlap leaves a little bit, so it makes it kind of fun. And then once that's done, this is what these look like. See, if it would have been a little darker thread, but still, I know I did it, so there it is. Now I'm going to take some Distress Oxide ink and Vintage Photo. My stem is a little light. I didn't have a darker brown, so I'm just going to ink that up and make it a little bit darker both sides. That works, right? And then I'm going to ink around my little tag a little bit here just because the fabric's just a little bit too light for me. So I'm going to ink front and back of that. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some really thick twine up onto that stem. I'm kind of tucking it under that little excess fabric that we left out, you know, on our little pumpkin here. Wrapping it around a little bit, bring it down to the front and kind of glue it back in under that excess fabric so those ends are kind of hidden here. Now this can be a pillow, which is why I didn't decorate it too much. It can sit up amongst other just fabric pumpkins. It's really cute. It's flat, but it does stand up. I'll show you that. So I'm going to go ahead and add my couple of leaves here right up underneath that stem. And then this is some of that mesh tubing you can get in a package from Dollar Tree. I like to tie a little knot so I can glue it easier. Trying to kind of bend that end a little bit so it's not sticking straight out. And I'm going to kind of angle and cut off excess of my tag there, fabric tag, and glue that down a little bit, kind of right in the center of those leaves, and then glue down the knot of that mesh tubing right over that. Then I've got a button for my supply here. I'm just adding some twine through the holes. I don't want naked holes here, and then I'll just cut off the excess on the back after I've tied it in a knot. And then I want to just ink it up a little bit, so I'm going to take that same ink and just kind of darken it a little bit and around the edges. Then I'm going to take a big twine bow I've made out of this larger diameter twine from Walmart, and I'm going to glue the button right in the center of that. Kind of crinkle my tag a little bit, glue it down, and then the way the twine's laying, I'm like, I kind of like that. So I'm just going to kind of glue the twine down how it just laid naturally after I glued it up at the top, just so it stays in that position all the way down. I kind of like it. Like I said, it's cute. I know they won't move. And then the last thing I'm going to do, once this is positioned, I've got this shimmer glitter dust I get from Etsy. I'll have a link down below for you. It's clear with a hint of silver. I'll go ahead and shimmer everything off camera. And I do want to show you that this flat pumpkin does stand up, and that makes this project complete. Let's move on to project number 3. For this project, you guessed it, I came in again with my sweet friend Kim, craftingwithkimber.com, and we made a cute sign for you all. It comes complete with all the letters. It's a pumpkin and an apple, different writing fonts on here, a cute arrow, the framing, everything. She's even scored like so it looks like fake little slats. The arrow comes with these little pieces. Don't lose any of those little pieces. So the letters, she has scored those for you so you don't have to have any guesswork. All right, and eyeballing the letters down. The scoring is a little bit smaller than the actual letters, so when you go to glue them on, it will get hidden. You don't see any of that. All right, so I'm going to add these letters on so you can kind of see that. The score lines looks cute, vertical slats, horizontal slats. The A here, see the little kind of tip on the A? That's supposed to be like that because the H fits right up against that. So it's not a mess up in the cut. It's supposed to be like that, okay? Wanted to point that out to you. Yeah, so you have vertical, horizontal score lines to make little slats in the boards and everything. I just think she did a superior job in, dreaming up my vision here. I think it looks so super cute. Here's the arrow. It looks funny. It's got cutouts, but that's because the H fits in there and the Y of the hayrides fits in there. So the H will fit against your A here and then inside the arrow as well. Then the Y of the hayrides fits right in. Okay, there's a little heart to go on the eye here, a heart to go on the other eye, and there's this little piece that looks like something you throw away, but don't, because it goes in the center of the Y there at the bottom to finish off the arrow. See, now it looks like an arrow, so don't throw away those little pieces, and here's your pumpkin and your cute little apple. I love how she did this, and then little framing here that goes around. This is so cute and so easy. I'll have the link down below for you so you can order this cute sign. She'll have a couple of sizes as well. So let's get started on putting this together. I'm going to use some chalk paint here, Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Drop Cloth. I'm going to use Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Terracotta. I'm going to use Antique Waverly Wax mixed with water, and I'm actually going to use a flat black spray paint to spray my letters. And then you want something really sharp like a needle or, a weeding tool if you have a Cricut machine or Silhouette, because once we paint, we're going to use that sharp needle or a straight pin. You'll be able to see the lines even if you do 2 coats like I'm going to do here. You'll be able to see the lines and then take your sharp instrument and go across horizontal and those couple of vertical lines to make our fake slats in the board. I went between the coats, like I did 1 coat as I did here, and then I'm making the slats pop out, and then I do another coat and I do it again, just so a bunch of paint doesn't get stuck in those little score lines. But remember, there's the vertical and the horizontal ones as well. But I love this because, we didn't have to put a bunch of boards together. Kim did all the work for us. Love how this turned out. I really do hope you guys order this. It's so cute when it's put together. All right, I'm going to also come in. That'll be sitting there drying. I'm just going to paint 1 letter here because it takes a little bit, but using my terracotta paint, couple of coats on my hayrides word only. This is going to be the orange color that kind of comes into the project here. The background had that drop cloth color, and then my other letters will be the black spray paint. You could use a black flat paint or whatever color paint you want, but I thought spray paint would be a lot quicker to spray paint my letters, and I will do that off camera outside. I'm coming in with that Waverly Wax mixed with water, and I'm just kind of painting my framing, just one side. The back's going to be, glued down, of course. The sides are already stained from the cut of the laser, so don't have to worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and stain my apple and my pumpkin as well, because I'm going to actually add some scrapbook paper on the top of these just to give it a little fun. But if you didn't want to do that, you can paint your apple and your pumpkin, the normal pumpkin and apple colors. Okay, here's the paper I'm going to use from Hobby Lobby. This other one just came from my stash. I just kind of picked a nice orange and a green. And I'm taking each one and I'm going to trace it onto the back side of the paper here. Just the pumpkin part. I'm not doing the stem. And then I'm going to come in about 1/4 inch and I'm going to redraw, maybe it's 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to redraw that pattern perimeter, and that's what I'm going to cut out on my paper. And I'm going to do this on both of my pieces here. And then when I cut that out and I actually lay it on the pumpkin, you'll see that little bit of a wood perimeter around it. On the apple, I do cut the leaf out as well. I take these to my sewing machine and I actually sew on my paper, and I'll show you what I did when I sewed the little leaf because it's really tiny and you're like, how'd you hold that in your machine? I'll give you a little tip. All right, so cutting these out and then show you what it looks like, just kind of placed on the pumpkin, and then the next scene will show them sewn. And I just sewed on it like it's regular fabric. So there's what that looks like. All right. And then here's what they look like sewn. So it just gives it a little something, something, right? You can make little dash lines with a Sharpie marker. Here's what it looks like on the apple. So the little leaf, I just put that onto another sheet of paper and I sewed both of those papers together, a bigger sheet. And then now I can just kind of come and cut underneath the leaf and cut that out. Makes it a lot easier than trying to twist and turn that little leaf in there, right? Now I'm taking the open end of my scissor blades. I'm scraping along the edges of the paper. So even if you're not a sewer, you want to do this. It adds a nice little rustic touch and it allows the paper to kind of pop up off of the wood. See, it kind of gives it a nice little white silhouette around it. I just love to do this when I work with scrapbook paper and wood pieces. I'm going to go ahead and glue both of these, that's 3 pieces actually, down onto our pumpkin and our apple here. I wasn't going to do a leaf at all. I was going to paint it green. I'm like, I won't find a green to match that. It's a weird kind of green, so a brownish kind of green. I think it looks cute with just a little leaf done anyway. So here's what those look like. All right, and then I'm taking some black paint, just a chalk paint mixed with water, and I'm bringing my fan brush in, wipe off the excess, and then tap along here so I get some splatters in the background. Just needed something. And then I'm going to splatter just the hayride word and the pumpkin and the apple because our other letters are already black. I've distressed everything here off camera. Just wanted to show you that. Distressed all my letters and my arrow and my framing, that kind of thing, just with some sandpaper distressed around the edges. And now we're going to start gluing our letters on. As you can see, I did 2 layers and you can still see the score line underneath. Right? So we know exactly where to glue. I love that. You guys know how I am. I'm like measuring. I want it straight, top to bottom, left to right, corner to corner, and I don't have to think about it here. And I love the different fonts she used on these. I just think they turned out super cute. I love that they kind of, like the pumpkin and the apple font, have like a little bit of a curve to them. I just think Kim did a super fabulous, fun job with this. And I'm just using my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue to glue these down. You can use a hot glue to glue them down. You can use a super glue. In fact, I think when Kim does a lot of her gluing her wood pieces together, she'll use Fabri-Tac sometimes, but she does use like super glue quite a bit, and that will hold it perfectly wonderful as well. Okay, getting our last little bit of our cute letters on. I just kind of wanted to show you the whole process here. Then we're going to come in. I'm going to lay some pieces down here so I get my, laying down right, lay my frame in so, make sure it's right top to bottom, the spacing, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and glue the H down first, get that set up against that A and then into kind of the arrow. I don't have the arrow glued down yet. It's just laying there. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue the rest of the hayrides word down so I get that into position. Get it the right, so it's nice and straight and cute and funky. And then I'll go ahead and glue my arrow down. I say cute and funky because that font is kind of fun, up and down, wonky look to it. And then remember, we have that little extra piece. Hope you didn't throw yours away. And go ahead and glue that right inside that H so it finishes off our little arrow. Perfect. I love how she laid those in together. Now I'm going to put my little last heart over my eye, and then we're going to get our framing onto our sign. I think the splatters add a nice touch in the back. I almost went in with a little bit of orange splatter too in the background, but I thought that's going to start to make it look too Halloween, and I wanted it more of a fall. All right, one more piece of framing here, and then we're going to get our apple and our pumpkin on. And I'm using Beacon Fabri-Tac glue for the framing because it's lightweight. It's going to hold fine. I'm not worried about using wood glue or anything like that. I'm going to put, of course, the pumpkin to the left and my little apple to the right. You can do whatever order you want. And then, yes, I'm bringing in my little shimmer, and I'm going to shimmer that up just a little bit. It's real subtle, but it makes this project complete. So I hope you enjoyed all of these projects today. Please give this video a thumbs up if you did indeed enjoy these projects, and leave me a comment down below and let me know which project you want to make right now, and let me know if you're interested and want to order this sign, because it kind of lets me know if, Kim and I, are designing right for you and it's the kind of things that you are liking. All right. If you walked in here for the first time and you're just checking things out and you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. In the Bible, the book of Isaiah, chapter 61 and verse 3, it mentions beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, praise instead of despair. In this scripture, you are given encouragement to look ahead to the positive versus staying in the past or living in your current circumstance that you are facing now. It's important to look ahead and know that things that have happened in your past causing you pain, or things that are currently happening that are possibly keeping your faith a little low right now, can be healed, and you must not allow fear or anxiety toward them to keep you from all that God is willing to offer you. Likewise, don't allow anger or frustration to pull you away from God's grace that is waiting for you. Instead, you must look to the hope that God has for you today to be able to face tomorrow. You must have an expectation in your heart that God will heal you or your situation, so that it will increase your faith as you look forward to what God will do in your life. But in the midst of waiting, you must also remember that the healing you're hoping for is in God's timeline. So don't allow the frustration of having to wait cloud your vision and keep you from trusting in God's plan. Trust in His timing and lean into the goodness of His work in your life. Trust God with your whole heart, not just in part. Trusting just in part because you're afraid that something won't work out well with His plan is like buying a car and asking that only 3 of the 4 wheels are included. It would be hard to keep the momentum going, right? The empty hub would drag on the pavement, a few sparks may fly. So why place yourself in this kind of position? You would not be able to maintain your stability, and most likely you would tip over. So why keep part of the trust in your heart to yourself? It doesn't yield good results. It only makes your situation pump harder, trying to maintain a good balance and quality of life versus giving your whole heart and allowing God to keep it in perfect rhythm through everything you are facing. Surrender and lean into God as He gives you a new sense of His goodness in this very moment, and allow His grace to see you through as you look forward to the healing that He will release in your life. Hang on to the expectation that His plan will work for you. He will answer your prayer in a way that works best for you. God will not fail you. He always knows what you need, and He will always work it out for you. He will make you a righteous oak. He will fill your soul with His beauty, His joy, and praise. He will see you through this moment. He wants to do this for you because you are His child and He loves you. Your heart should always trust in that. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.